Hello, this is Belinda Green. I am talking about my client question. The client question is, if I increase my protein intake, will that help with my performance and help my muscles get bigger? I've had a lot of people ask me this question, and I've also seen my friends increase their protein intake either by food or making a ton of protein shakes more frequently. They feel that increasing their protein intake, it will help their muscles get bigger. I will say that it's not within my scope of practice to recommend or suggest any nutritional advice. However, I have researched some nutritional and nutrient information to provide appropriate feedback, not only for my friends and family, but for this presentation as well. So I guess my answer would be yes and no. Protein is just one of the factors to support muscle growth and performance. In a research study that I read, it showed that in a 10 or 12 week of resistance training in conjunction with daily whey protein and or carbohydrate supplementation resulted in enhanced activation of protein signaling and muscle performance. So with this study, it was specifically talking about carbohydrates and protein. So that's one of the things too that we're also going to talk about, or that I'm also going to talk about too as well. So protein, what I found in my research, is just one of the important nutrients of muscle growth. There are several things that need to be considered when you're increasing protein intake. Number one is that you are increasing protein, which means you're also increasing your calorie intake too as well. So we just have to be careful of that. Our bodies break down protein into amino acids, which those protein amino acids are used to rebuild, strengthen, and thicken the muscle fibers. So they specifically in the research study talked about leucine, which was the one that kickstarts the muscle building process. But it's not the whole process. So one of the other things that I looked into too was carbohydrates, because carbohydrates also play a role into increasing muscle strength or performance and actually enhancing the size of them. Without proper carbohydrate intake, performance and muscle growth are bound to be impaired. So in essence, in the research that I found, that carbohydrates and proteins are the biggest thing to support muscles growing. Carbohydrates are broken down into glycogen, and glycogen is the fuel that we need to power our muscles, and that's the most important thing too, because without fuel, we wouldn't be able to perform. In the research that I found, it's recommended that individuals should consume about 2 to 3 grams of complex and refined carbohydrates per pound of body weight. And it also said too that the protein intake too as well, and I'll get to that in just one second. What's interesting is that it's a common practice for those who are wishing to significantly increase their muscle mass, such as bodybuilders. They eat an increase in calories during their what they call the off season, which would be between competitions. So they found that this practice is often referred to as bulking. And when they bulk, they often lead to an increase in fat mass. So that's what I was talking about, that even though you're increasing your protein intake, yes, it's going to support the process of building the muscles to get a little bit bigger. However, you have to go hand in hand with also, if you increase your protein, you're increasing your calories, therefore potentially increasing the fat mass. So you would also have to increase or change how much you're working out, the intensity of your workouts, and so on and so forth. So what I also find too is not only is there risk of overeating, there's an increase in protein, essentially increasing calories, often tries to cut weight or being health conscious, individuals think that they need to cut calories. So there's the other side of that, which would not be eating enough calories too as well. So So what it says, this research that I had was from Buckley, states that taking in the certain types of calories will encourage the body to develop more muscles and burn fat efficiently. So it's about the type of nutrient that you're eating. So we don't want to be eating any refined sugars or protein that would not be able to be supportive of us, or we don't want to eat simple carbs. We would rather eat complex carbs to ensure that the body processes it differently. So it states that the ideal range for carbohydrate intake with muscle building is about 18 to 20 calories per pound of body weight. And with protein, the average healthy adult, the recommended dietary allowance is 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. The recommended dietary amount for protein is higher for people who are very active and for people like children, people who are pregnant, and people who are recovering from serious illnesses, trauma, or major surgery, because they need to have an increase in protein for the healing process. However, there has been no set number for those people of the recommended dietary allowance for people who are very active. So they just go based off of the 0.8 grams per protein per kilogram of body weight. Some people who need to restrict protein intakes, or some people need to restrict protein intake because there could be potential kidney dysfunction or metabolic disorders. So we don't want too much of a good thing causing us to change the body process and potentially go into some type of kidney dysfunction. So we individuals need to be aware of that. Dietary protein plays an important role in to fill and regulate the appetite, calorie intake, and weight gain. That's one of the things that I found in my research too as well. They just need to ensure that increasing protein means that increasing calories, so we also need to pay attention to our resistance training, which leads me into that. So even though nutrition is a huge part of the equation of building muscle mass, strength training is a necessary part as well. When individuals incorporate strength workout into their regimen, they are progressively challenging the muscles and increasing the amount of tension over time, which we want that resistance overload on the muscle to support growth too as well. So Buckley recommends that progressive overload involves manipulating, increasing, and tracking the progress with one or more of the following with your resistance training, which would be the frequency. So if you're going to increase your calories by increasing protein, you need to change the frequency, the volume, the intensity, ensuring that your form is correct, and then your cadence of resistance training. So to answer the question specifically, it takes more than just increasing protein to increase muscle mass. Other nutrients play a key role in muscle growth as well as resistance training. Individuals do not want to increase food, therefore increasing calories without increasing or changing their workouts. Calories in versus calories out.